Hi, everyone. I am back, and today I'm really excited because I'm talking to Mike Paterson, who I'm going to call the Sasquatch Whisperer. He has so much contact with Sasquatch, and I'm so excited to talk more with you, Mike. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Sharon. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for being here. And if we could just start with you sharing some of your background with how you got involved with Sasquatch and these people, the hairy people, I guess. I have one book called, I think it's called The Hairy People, but people with a lot of hair, right? If you could just share with us how you got involved with them and some of your background.
I have a lot more hair than I have, trust me. It was completely unexpected. So I was, I guess back in 07, I started doing photography, bought some good camera gear. So I was making a lot of trips to the woods by myself in my downtime from work, and I love nature, love wildlife. So, I just was searching for those National Geographic quality opportunities, and I love interacting with nature. I'm always trying to get as close as I can, without stressing it out, any of it out. And I guess I was being watched, apparently, it seems that way anyways. And one day I had an epiphany of looking for Sasquatch, just in the woods. And I just had this thought. And at this point, I'm pretty confident they had some influence in that. Because I don't know why that would enter my mind. And I used to think, I think a lot of people think this way, that one needs to go to the West Coast to have an experience, right? Mm-hmm. BC or, out where you are, Oregon, that way. And little did I know there was stuff going on here in Ontario, where I am. I'm just a couple hours north of Toronto, roughly. And so I started looking into the subject, and I started doing some research online and made a couple comments on some YouTube videos, and somebody reached out to me at one point and asked if I wanted to go to a place of previous activity. And I was like, sure, and I didn't, when they went to the location, I was extremely skeptical. It just, from where they told me where I was going to meet them, I was just like, nah, I couldn't believe it. But I still went through with it, and I talked back and forth with this person a few times and didn't hear from them for, I don't know, maybe it was a month or so. And so they reached out to me again, and I said, okay, let's go this weekend. And that was October 25th, 2008. And we pulled up Google Earth, showed me where we were going to meet. So I met him at noon, and his name was Mike too. He showed me the ropes. He wasn't as advanced in understanding what we're dealing with at the time, but he had some good knowledge on, just looking for their activity and stuff. So I was doing what most people would do with wood knocks and yelling and that sort of thing. Being a bit intrusive, I don't do that stuff anymore. I might give a single knock here and there once in a while, but that's about it. Or a whoop, but very minimal.
That you do, or that you hear from them?
No, like I'll do. Depends on where I am. If I'm in a new area or something, I might do it. But if I'm in an area that I frequent all the time, I don't do. I don't have to. Right. So I ended up meeting up with this guy on October 25th. I remember it was a drizzly, gray October day. There was a very slight drizzle going on, and so we were walking some trails, and he's doing some wood knocking, and it was 4.5 hours later, about 4:30 in the afternoon, picked up a fist-sized rock, and he walked over to a big pine tree, and he just gave it several bangs, like bang, 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 and that was it. And we stopped and listened, and suddenly I hear this, it's like this stomp from a gorilla. It was like a really rapid, 3 times, just it was very odd sound. And I'm pretty good with my sounds in the woods, so it really stuck out, and it was close, and it was strange, right? So I immediately, I kind of put my arm up, basically, telling Mike to let's be quiet and listen. And it was just a few seconds later that this triple guttural, very raspy whoop call happened. Did it 3 times, and it was so loud it just filled the entire forest, and wow. it changed my life right there. I knew what it was. You instantly know what it was when you hear their voice that loud and close. You know what it is. There's certain vocalizations they do that people will not know them, but this I just instantly knew. So I was pretty much in a moment of shock, and just kind of sat down on the ground for a couple minutes and listened. And I remember this lady, the area is actually frequented by people walking with their dogs and doing some horseback riding and stuff. It's not a place where I spent about 4 years in there afterwards. I've never seen kids playing in there. There's one area with a pond where people congregate with their dogs and that. But generally the whole area is just trails and forest, and you're lucky to sometimes to even pass or people on the trail. It's pretty spread out. So this lady actually came walking around the corner, walking her little dog right after that call happened. And I remember she looked at us, and we nodded, didn't really say much to her, and she had this scowl on her face, and she was actually closer to the call than we were. So she came just around the corner, and the call had happened behind her up on this ridge. And so she didn't have a clue what was going on. So she walked past us. We didn't talk to her or anything, but I'm pretty sure her mind must have just been reeling after that, wondering what the hell was that.
Yeah, I mean, it scared her.
Yeah, she just had that look of shock and that scowl on her face. I just never forget that. I can only imagine, like, we were looking for Sasquatch, right, and that's what we got. So we knew what was going on, even though that was the first time I'd experienced something vocal like that at that proximity. And that basically put me on the path I'm on today. So I ended up spending about the next 4 years going back to that area as much as I could, much of the time by myself. And I'd had numerous experiences over the years there. And so that was basically my intro into it. Although I had things happen earlier on in life. I did have a sighting at the age of 10.
Oh.
It was basically traumatized me at the time. I dismissed it or said it was a bear at the time. And I didn't connect the dots until after October 5th, 2008, when I looked back I can't remember how long it was after that, but I'd been doing this for a little bit, and then realized that, hold on a sec, I had an incident when I was 10, and that not a bear, that was a Sasquatch standing at the side of the road. So I've had a couple instances throughout my life. Then October 25th, 2008 was the moment that changed everything.
Wow. Yeah. And so after that, you started, from what I understand you're saying, is that you started looking for contact or communication with them. Does that make sense?
Well, I didn't know what I was dealing with yet, right? I just kept an open mind. I had no idea what they were capable of. And it's funny, early on, they actually showed their ability to me. So I'm not sure what your viewers are aware of, but I'll just state that, Sasquatch, they're interdimensional.
Sure.
They're human. They're human types. They're interdimensional. They're highly telepathic. They have incredible abilities. They're massive energy. So they actually showed their abilities early on to me. I didn't realize it at the time. We'd had an experience. I was actually with the other guy. It was a weeknight. Actually, just down the road up the road from where we originally had vocal encounter. We were in another patch of woods, a couple miles up the road, and about it's the middle of the night, 2 in the morning. During the week, I remember a lot of moonlight, so we didn't even need a flashlight. Could see pretty far in the forest, and we were on a main trail, and a lot of snow on the ground. And I remember these tracks crossing the trail. So I was sitting there trying to figure out what these tracks were. If it was from a deer jumping through the snow, standing there trying to figure this out. And suddenly we hear bipedal footsteps crunching through the snow right there, right beside us. And I remember at the time I was freaking out because I couldn't understand what was going on. And there was nothing there. And it was clear as day, this walking, crunching through the snow on 2 feet. And now I can look back and realize that they were revealing their abilities way back then when I'd first gotten involved. So I had no idea still at the time when that happened. I still didn't realize, that was Sasquatch and that they were capable of this sort of thing.
That makes me wonder if when people go out in the woods, camping or whatever, if perhaps there is some kind of sounds or sightings that they don't realize they're actually seeing these beings when they think they're seeing something or hearing something else, or don't know how to put it in any kind of context. Maybe it happens a lot more than we think.
Yeah, I would think so. There's a lot of orb activity that's directly related to Sasquatch. Actually, there's people might see things like a shimmering, like heat off the road, but vertically. I've experienced that as well. If you hear a tree crash, I've recorded numerous trees at this point over the years, just getting pushed over.
Oh, wow.
One very close to me, about 200 feet away, that was so loud. Wow. Just amazing. I've actually recorded, I think it's 3 or 4 trees go down in Neff's area with my audio. So I've used audio over the years as my main tool of choice for learning about them and understanding how they interact with humans, how they show their presence. And they've been extremely accommodating in allowing me, to record. There's no problem there. They've never showed, never given me any indication that there's ever an issue with using audio recorders. In fact, they tend to gravitate to my recorder, and they've done that since day one, basically. And it happens here too at home. So they know I'm recording, and I tell them I'm honest with them, tell them what I'm doing, tell them I love their voice, and that's what I want the most, the voice. I just absolutely, as far as the audio goes, anyways.
I love audio. I actually record. I guess what you call a paranormal investigator. And so I use audio to communicate with, I started trying to communicate with my parents after they passed. And then it just went on. And I have so many spirit voices on audio. It just seems like audio is something that for me anyway, I can't negate. Does that make any sense? if you're doing it right, if you know what's the circumstances are and there's nothing else to contaminate it. For me, it's audio really gets something within me, and maybe with people too. I don't know what it is.
So you're recording EVPs.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
With the paranormal stuff.
Yeah.
It's basically, it's similar to some of the Sasquatch vocals, because I've recorded their voice out of thin air indoors, even, from the children, different family members. They're not visible. They can come in, and they do come into our homes. I've been working with a property owner for the last decade, documenting the one family. Nefertia he's been the main character. His name he gave to us on audio one visit, because I'm always going Mike, because I knew they were there, so I would do that all the time. And finally one day he yelled out my name, and
wow.
And he yelled it out many times after that. But I was always asking for his name, and we used to call him Missy at first, because they show a very consistent sense of humor.
You used to call him what?
Mr. Funny.
Mr.
Before we knew him, that's what we call him, Mr. Funny. We actually used to run a live microphone out the cottage owners. We'd run it out the door. He's a musician. I play music too, and so we'd put a mic stand out and run the cables in through the door, so we'd have ears outside in real time. And Neff, he'd come up to the microphone, go roar, do that sort of thing, and we'd hear it through the speakers indoors in real time. So he'd do that, and so it was one visit. Sorry?
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I was just going to say that what you're sharing here confirms a lot of what I had experienced with, I shared with you before we came on, that I had telepathic relationship with the Sasquatch for a couple of years. And when you talk about the shimmering thing and how they can be, I know that they're interdimensional. He shared that with me too. And I feel that when I felt like I knew that. But when even though I wasn't in the woods, he was communicating with me very strongly in my house. And he would tell me sometimes, stand still. I'm going to touch your hand. And I would stand still, and I get this tingling up my hand, and he would hold my hand when he's not there physically. So a lot of what you're sharing with me confirms a lot of what I was getting. So thank you for that. Oh, and the orbs. Do you know about ECETI in Washington? James Gilliland's property?
I've heard about it.
Okay. Yeah. There was a gal there that shared that she got up in the middle of the night and saw, because there's apparently a lot of sightings there, and they put out apples and things for the Sasquatch families around there. And one gal got up in the middle of the night that we were staying in the cabin with, and she shared that she saw one walking across the big field there, and he turned and looked at her and sent her a telepathic message. It's cold out here, go to bed. And she said she saw him for just a short, not very long, and he shimmered, and then she saw an orb after that.
Cool.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah, I've been witness to a few orb incidents at this point, both outdoor and indoor. The most incredible one was like plasma red. It had a really bright red nucleus with a translucent red outer layer, and it would pulsate. It looked to be maybe pulsating to about 4 feet in diameter roughly, and shrinking. Wow. And it started doing this dancing up and down, back and forth. It was witnessed by the cottage owner himself, and I remember we were standing in the woods when this happened and looking back down towards the cottage, and I had taken one footstep, just one, to get a better look. Like I could see it, but the trees are there, so I just get a little closer, as one footstep, and poof, it was over. So,
Yeah.
But
I
go
want to
ahead.
share. Okay, I was just gonna say I want to share one of your. You were so kind to send me a couple of audios, 3 audios that I'd like to share with my audience. The one where, especially the one where Neff says your name.
Yeah, the one that's called First Mike. That was
Yes.
That's the very first time he said my name. That was, I think, early May 2013.
Okay.
And I was up in my tent. So what I do is there's an incline there, fairly steep incline, maybe 65, 70 degree incline. And it goes up maybe 150, couple 100 feet, and then it levels off up top in the forest. And that's where I would put my tent. And I would run audio through my car sunroof. I'd run the wires and the microphones through the roof, and then close my sunroof with the mic sticking out, and like a foam sock on top, and windsock, and he would gravitate to my car. Sometimes he's banging on car roof and that. So that's where he would be standing while I'm up in my tent up top, and that's where the audio come from. So I remember I was in my tent when I heard him say my name. It was a little difficult, it wasn't that loud from my vantage point because of, I was up top and over this hill a bit, but he's close to the audio. So, I captured it nice and clear. Yeah.
Is that the one where he's calling you and you're saying what? Or I heard one where he's calling your name and I think you're saying what, or that might be a different one where you're in the tent.
Yeah, I have a lot of audio, right?
Okay,
so.
All right. Right, you do. Okay, so if I'm going to share this one here, and then we'll continue. Okay, share sound. Hopefully this come through. Stop share. That didn't work. Let me see here. This is the one. All right. I think we got this. I'm going to play this audio.
Right.
Wow.
You want to run through that one more time, just because there's a couple little breaks in there?
The same one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
That's amazing. I'm going to do it one more time.
All right.
Right.
Could you hear that okay?
Yep. Loud and clear.
Wow. Did you freak out when you first heard that?
I was kind of stunned, it's surreal.
Yeah.
I remember, Dwayne's crashed in the cottage, right? He sleeps in the cottage. So when I saw him in the morning, I just told him, I said, I think they called my name. He's like, what? I said, yeah, man, I think they said Mike. And we would sometimes ride in the car together, ride in the vehicle together, back and forth. So we'd play the audio through the system, through the stereo system on the way back, and, listen to some of the recordings. There would be certain times that I'd hear and I'd note the time, so that way I could fast forward and figure out where the audio parts were, where the vocals were, right?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's surreal to hear that the first time.
Oh, I bet. Wow. And so that, did you know it was Neff right away, or?
Yeah, well, his, but did I know his name by then? I don't think I knew his name yet
Okay.
at that point. So as I was mentioning earlier, I would say my name, Mike. And at one point he went up to my microphone and he said, Mike Dwayne, the cottage owner. So he said, Mike Dwayne Nefertia. So he said both our name and his. So he's basically, this is my name. And he'd also at one point said Anastasia, sister. He said, like he said sister. So, and we've gotten a few other names from them at this point from the family.
So Anastasia is whose sister? His sister?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, cut out a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's two. I think there's another one named Ashantia, as well as Anastasia. There's a young male. I believe I think he's about 14, maybe 15 right now, and his name's Mushka, and he's like Mr. Funny #2. Some of the stuff he's been doing, yeah, he's a bit of a troublemaker. That he likes to do certain things, like put eggs in my boot, hoping I'll step on them.
Oh man, that is hilarious.
Yeah, they're constantly doing things like that. I might find a pile of leaves and sticks in my bag, or I've even gone into my bag in the winter time, in the cottage where my clothes are, and those are all wet. So I realize that they threw a bunch of snow in there that melted. Or I have a drink and they'll put something in my drink. That sort of thing.
That's hilarious. So they're just kind of big kids in a way.
Yeah.
Like we should be more like. We should have more humor in our lives.
Definitely.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, they're very, very lighthearted.
Yeah.
And even call him the big guy. I don't know his name. His footprint is now, as of last winter, it's grown an inch, so it's now 21 inches. That's Neff's is as of last winter. Neff's is 16 inches. That's grown 4 inches over 8 winters. So the big guy even showed his humor. It was back on March 20th, 2015. I had a light layer of snow on my vehicle, and Neff had on my back tail light. Neff had put his footprint on my back tail light, and the big guy had placed a partial footprint on the back window of my car. So I had these, 2 footprints from 2 of the family members. Even the one who's 12 feet tall, putting a partial print on my back window. So he's pretty
Which
funny.
means he was standing on your car?
No. See, people, I get a lot of, that's, BS, because your window would break. And it's like, we're dealing with interdimensional.
Yeah, that's right. I get it now.
Yeah, so we don't know. I've been sitting in my car. I had an incident where I got in my car to do battery change, which I do partway through the nights to make sure my recorder is running the whole night. And I keep it on my front seat there, doors locked. So I'm sitting in my car doing a battery change, and suddenly I hear a marble crack off the window, and I found it in my passenger side on the floor. So it went inside while I was sitting in the car. And right after that happened, I'm still sitting there doing this battery change, capture it on audio because the recorder was off because the batteries were out. And see where my right knee is, this console, there's a little change holder. A marble just lands right in the change holder, showing me that he's basically standing right behind me. But I'm in my car though. So there are no walls with them. They are masters of Jesus, so they can, you break down all this stuff, walls, a car, anything, you break it down to a quantum level, it's basically empty space. So they got to move through that.
Yeah. So I'm an out-of-body traveler, so I understand how we can walk through walls in the non-physical, or this non-physical state. So that definitely makes sense to me. And although I have not been able to bring something to affect something in the physical realm from the out-of-body state, from the non-physical realm, with my attention on the physical realm. So that definitely takes a master. I'm really impressed.
That they are.
Yes.
Like the situation I'm involved in, I've developed written communication orders as well, to the point they're highly intelligent. They know what's going on this earth. And what I'm gathering is there are no secrets that we can hold from them. So they're a threat to those who wish to hold on to the status quo, that are manipulating the global population. That they're a threat to them, because they know their secrets. And I've learned a few things along the way, asking certain controversial questions, and they know it seems they're very aware of what goes on. And
Good.
Some of the answers that I've gotten from them have shown that.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Definitely, because it all needs to come out anyway.
Yeah.
No more hiding.
And yeah, they're really, they are in the midst of exposing their people to the human race. We are, they're not, it's not science that is making this a discovery. It's not, science has been avoiding this. And we got these shows, these programs like Finding Bigfoot, where they got ape mentality, and I think that shows like that, they're basically keep this narrative alive of this ape mentality. They haven't jumped on board yet with this interdimensional factor. So we have these shows like that with these TV personalities that basically deny the actual reality and truth of what we're dealing with. So the Sasquatch are reaching out and making contact with a growing number of humans, because I talk to many people. This is my life. I spend all day basically dealing with this subject, and I get to speak with folks, and more people are getting these experiences, and more people are starting to realize that they have these incredible abilities, that step outside this box that we've all been shoved into by this current system.
Yeah, and we've been brainwashed for so long. I totally agree with you, Mike. We've been brainwashed for so long. It's time. I mean, humanity wakes up to, not just, in my opinion and what I understand, not just their abilities, but our abilities too. We have these abilities. It's just been dumbed down. We've been so dumbed down.
Yeah, we have.
It always, whenever I say that or think about it, it makes me want to cry too, because we've been dumbed down for so long.
Yeah. Apparently we can do what they can do.
Yes.
I've asked them, can we go invisible like you can anywhere? And they said yes. So it's just a matter of learning how to do it.
So they can be our teachers.
Yeah, I hope to learn that one of these days. That's a great to have.
Have you ever wondered? That would be amazing to be able to do that again. Have you ever wondered if you ever had a lifetime as a Sasquatch? I mean, you obviously have a connection that goes, deep within you.
I was never one of them.
You were never one of them? Okay.
I asked them.
Okay.
Some humans have their DNA. I don't. I asked them. I'm something else. I'm not getting into that.
Okay.
Yeah, they gave me a interesting response. So
Did they?
um,
Yeah.
yeah, so, but I was never one of them. But some humans have been in a previous existence, and some have their DNA, and vice versa. They have our DNA as well. So I'm quite confident there's people in power who are well aware of what's going on. With the whole genetics of our disposition,
Right.
and the connection to them. I'm quite sure that Sasquatch are our true ancestors.
Yeah. I guess what we would call the missing link, maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Our elder brothers and sisters, and it seems that we were genetically modified from them, or I'm not sure on that, but the DNA that some humans have of theirs and vice versa,
Right.
there's definitely a connection there.
Sure. So there's a lot of information out there, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are, your opinions, and you may have already experienced this with the connection between Sasquatch and UFOs, or ships being, when they appear, UFOs might appear or something like that.
Well, there's cases I know of Sasquatch seen coming and going from UFOs, and I've had 2 UFO incidents while while I've been doing this. They were 15 days apart, and they were put right in front of me. Basically, it was easy for me to see. It was something, it wasn't random, given to me for purpose of witness.
Yeah.
The first one was, I was driving on the 400 series highway north of Toronto, driving north past Pearson Airport. So there's a lot of lanes there. At the specific area where this happened, there's probably a dozen lanes there, with the collector and express. I think I was maybe about 5-6 lanes over from the left, and I remember in the left lane, to my immediate, just ahead of me, there was a transport, just ahead a little bit, and it was about 12:30 in the afternoon. I remember, I have it written down when this happened, but it was it the fall or summer? I can't remember, but it was 12:30 in the afternoon, and I remember the day there was 0 clouds in the sky. And I took note of this too. Both incidents are pristine conditions for this to happen. Any question out of like a cloud passing in front of the sun, something like that. So I was driving along, flow of traffic, and suddenly this large auto passed over top me, and it was going just faster, a little bit faster than the flow of traffic. And I noticed it instantly as soon as it passed over me, and watched it envelop the transport ahead of me. And I immediately was like, something, what the hell's going on here? Is I didn't hear any engine, and this had to be very low. Immediately I stuck my head out the window. There was nothing there, expecting that, hey, there should be a plane there.
Yeah.
And there was nothing there, completely clear skies. So it was a cloaked UFO. It's the only thing that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And then 15 days later, I was up in this area, and I was by myself, and this happened at night. And again, it was crystal clear sky, and it was a dead silent night. And there's a lot of nights like that up there where it's just dead still. You could literally hear a pin drop. It's so quiet. And so I'm at my spot where I pitch my tent, not at Dwayne's, another area I go to by myself sometimes. And I'm sitting in a chair watching stars, and I could see way off in the distance. I see planes passing, where the horizon would be, and could see them no problem. I could see their flashes, and how you hear their engines catch up after they've passed. The plane will pass, and then the sound of the motor will be shortly after. So all that's very clear. And suddenly I see a big bright light, like a big engine, pointed directly at me, way off in the distance. And I noticed immediately that there was no flashing on it. And I stood up off my chair and I just stood there and I watched as it came towards me. It ended up passing over top of the road that I was standing on. And I estimated it maybe a couple thousand feet in altitude, it seemed. And I didn't see a craft because it was just a big bright light. So I couldn't see any craft, but it was completely silent. So it wasn't a drone or anything. There was zero sound from this thing. It just passed over the road, fairly close to me. And that was it, right? It was like, it was 2 incidents, 15 days apart.
Wow. That's cool. Very cool. Yeah. I'm just, I just had the thought, I don't know why, but Star Wars and Chewbacca. I wonder if he's supposed to be a Sasquatch.
Yeah, looks like it.
Doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah, doesn't he? Chewie. So
yeah, makes you wonder what they knew back then that they weren't telling us. I see a lot of truths come out through Hollywood, right?
Right, a lot of, I guess they call it soft disclosure, and Star Trek especially. I'm obsessed with Star Trek. I'm catching up on the ones I haven't seen when I couldn't watch so much TV. But not that I watched a lot of TV. At the end of my day, I watched the Star Trek series that I didn't, because I was the first show. I'm that old, where I loved the first show with Captain Kirk, and I refused to watch the rest of them because I'm like, you can't improve on Star Trek. And then little by little, I started watching the other ones, and I really like them. I learned so much from them. There's a lot of disclosure in Star Trek and Star Wars too, I guess.
Yeah, the old stuff was it's funny.
It's hilarious to watch it now, definitely. Back then, though,
Yeah.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
So you've gotten to know families, right? Of the Sasquatch around you, do you call them Sasquatch? What do you call them? I mean, do you have a Sasquatch?
Yeah, I call them, I use that term, respectively, okay. Of course.
Yeah.
A lot of people call them Bigfoot. I might say that sometimes, but, it's always with respect. I don't particularly like that term, but, I'll still even use it sometimes. But like I said, always out of respect. I've always just basically used mostly the term Sasquatch. Some people call them Sabe. People, there's a lot of different names, right?
Okay. Yeti. I've heard Yeti up like more north in the
that would be, I think, Himalayan mountains, out that way. There's China, they get the Yeren, the snowman, or the Almas or Almasty, Russia, out that way. So different names around the world. Yowie in Australia.
I've heard Yowie. I haven't heard the others, but I guess it just depends on where you are. Yeah, the cultures would have different names for them. So you get to know the families around you. Is that true? You've gotten to know the families?
Well, I've documented Neff's family for a decade now.
Okay.
And and I've had a lot of physical contact. So when I say they're invisible, it's because I've been physically touched many times at this point. It used to always happen outside. And then one day I just said, hey, you guys are always, it always just happens outside. Can you touch me indoors? So they finally did. And that's happened numerous times too. Wow. Outdoors though, once sitting in the chair, I even got, I got this over my face, a very soft, hairy, hopefully hand, hopefully not sticking his ass or something.
Or his foot or something. Yeah.
So there's been a lot of physical contact to show me the invisible factor. Um,
Wow.
there's been partial manifestations that I got. I've had, there was a visual that Dwayne and I had through the cottage window one time during the day, probably Neff, standing in the stair. And we had a weird experience where both our minds got wiped, the experience in real time, and we both forgot it, and it came back to us next visit. There's a lot of high strangeness that comes with contact. Like I said, you know, they're masters of energy. It's very paranormal. There's the activity that happens indoors. There's much that happens indoors as out, basically. So that shows the dimensional factor. I get things that happen at home. I just had an incident a few days ago. They know what we focus on, so they utilize that information to show their presence. And it seems like just endless variety of ways that they show their presence. So sometimes, like I remember, I have a granite table here in the living room, and you know, one morning I got up to go to the bathroom. It's like 5:30 in the morning. Jump back in bed and I fall asleep, and I hear loud knock on this table in the living room. My bedroom's right there in the next one.
Oh wow.
My eyes just went wide and but I'm cool with it. I'm fine. I realize that's them, right? And I just went to sleep. So I don't, you know, I'm not, no fear. There was a lot of fear way back in the beginning for quite some time, but you know, those days are gone. I don't have any fear of them. They've shown.
Yeah, after 10 years.
Well, yeah, I've been doing it 14 years now, right? Okay. I'm in my 14th year, but a decade documenting Neff's family. And during the 14 years, though, the previous years, I've had experiences in other locations, multiple locations over the years. And now, you know, I have a family showing me presence slowly here at home, too. The other night, and I was telling you earlier, I just went through a 7-hour file and wrote, digital file there. I wrote down 55 wood knock incidents, which it was super interesting because they were all different tones, all different. Some were close, some were distant, some were really distant. They were all over the woods, all different tones, all different volumes. And then in the morning, walking to get my audio recorder, there was only one stick crack, and it was a big one, and just like crack, seconds before I reached my recorder, just to see that it's us, which I already knew. But they confirmed it right at the very last second of that audio file. So they've not a night of wood knocks like that here yet. That was the first time. I've been getting them recently, but not like that. And I've had there's been you know, one of the youngsters, you can tell by the footsteps running around, just sound like the size of a 4-year-old, has run up to my tent while I've been sleeping in it out back, and it sounds like rubbing rocks together fast and then running away. And I've had an adult walk in. I have my audio strapped to a sapling. So I walked in and basically tapped the microphone and then sniffed around, and it's the sniffing that sounds animalistic, you know, and walked in on 2 feet. So interesting stuff like that. They keep watch, you know. I'm very watched. That's being shown. We're watching you closely, Mike. Yourself. You got no privacy.
Yeah, I imagine that's true. We think we do, but anytime, anywhere, because we're interdimensional and we exist at the same time in different. I mean, there's different dimensions all around us, and all anyone has to do is put their attention on us from other dimensions. It's kind of.
Yeah, I'm slowly trying to learn information about all that, about this reality. And I have some questions next time I make a visit. I it's on location that the activity is tenfold in comparison to, by myself, or with Dwayne as well. The two of us get activity, but when we're together, it's so much more. I guess they like us being together.
Yeah.
But I'm very happy to see things picking up here at home.
Nice.
I've just, my fingers are crossed that one of these days I'm going to hear their voice. I'm waiting to hear their voice out back here. And they have let their voice be heard. I just didn't hear it, but it was witnessed by a landlord of mine. He witnessed two vocal incidents. One was about 4:30 in the morning. The other was about 5 a.m. and right here in the backyard. And then a girlfriend of his had witnessed basically a wolf howl here in the backyard. And that family showed me they do that. We were there. We were there one weekend. It was middle of the day, and we're sitting in the living room, Dwayne and I, and suddenly this just massive wolf howl right outside the cottage wall sounded. It was inside. It was so loud, and that was basically them showing that this is us. We do this, because I've recorded it a few times where it's really loud and really close, and like, is that a wolf or is that them? Trying to figure it out. Now I know it's them. So that's even happened right here too.
Oh, cool. So they can mimic animal sounds then.
Oh yeah.
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 That makes sense because they're out there with them.
There's a lot of weird stuff that comes with sounds too with them. So I don't know how they do it, or even with the woodbox, I don't know if they're banging a tree or not. Or
yeah.
One time we were up there at Dwayne's cottage, and we pulled up to an area on a snowmobile, and there was no other snow going in the area. We were, it was pretty quiet. Certain time of the year, there's not much action going on up there. So we pulled up snowmobile, shut the engine off. We're standing there, and suddenly we hear from close by, two revs of a snowmobile engine, and there's no running, just two revs, and that was it. So there was no like motor, running with this revs. Yeah, it was just, we shut the thing off, and then shortly after we hear. So I don't know how they did that. It's just crazy stuff.
So I want to play another one of your audios here. Let me see here if you could describe it. I've got July 5th, two voices.
Sure. Yeah, that's it's an older male and a young female speaking simultaneously. They're speaking language, and they're basically speaking over top of each other, because they can easily, I'm sure, understand what each other is saying while talking over top of each other.
Okay. All right. So let me pull it up here. Could you hear that?
Oh yeah, loud and clear. Do you want to do that again?
Yeah. There's another voice in the background, isn't there?
There's two voices there, yeah.
Two voices. Okay, so there's the lower guttural sound voice, and then another voice in the background. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe it's a young female speaking.
Okay. Oh, right. That's what it sounds like. Okay, I'm gonna play it again. Wow.
Yeah, there's some really weird sounds going on there with I don't know if that's his throat, at the end that's a rock, just that last little bit, little sound at the very end, that's a rock.
Okay.
But yeah, but there's some really crazy sounds, with his voice there.
That it so the female voice, it sounds like she's talking really fast to me. What it sounded like to me. Did it sound like that to you?
I don't know if she's really fast, but
Okay.
She's talking language.
Yeah.
They're only speaking language.
So it's a higher pitch than his, a lot higher pitch than his.
Yeah.
And it sounds, well, it just sounds to me that it's whatever she's saying sounds to me like it's coming out faster, but
like all I tell people sometimes, because I've recorded the voices from the young a couple times, and I say, if you talk to one of their children on the phone, you wouldn't know the difference between them and us. You would just think it's one of us, because they're not, their lung capacity hasn't, they haven't grown yet, right? They're still within our human range.
Right. They're not forming words like a child isn't forming language. Is that what
No, I mean they're the capacity. They're still our size. They're not huge where their chest cavities are massive. So some of the large males, you'll even get a metallic sound from chest because their chests are so huge.
Oh, I see. Okay. Oh wow. That makes sense.
The youngsters, the kids, they're still, and they're still little kids, they sound just like us.
That's so cool. That's so cool. So has Neff shared with you, does he have a mate? Do you know anything about that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think so, but I don't know. I do know his age. So this year he would be 27 years old. His little sister is 13 this year. So when this started, he was 17 years old and she was 4. I think it was last year I asked his age. They wrote it down for me. And at first they wrote 48, and then they rubbed it out using the chalkboard, and they rubbed it out and they wrote 25.
Oh.
And was that last year or the year before? It showed me that, their time is not like ours, linear. They're on a whole other different understanding of, space-time.
Right. Yeah, because we're the ones who are stuck in our time, linear time.
The way they can move in and out, at this point, I question absolutely everything. What we've been taught,
right.
So, I'm even at the point where I'm questioning, are we in a simulation? I just watched a movie the other night, so wondering about this. So this is my next question to them. Are we in a computer generated simulation, basically something like that? Maybe
totally.
They know this and they're able to move in and out of it because they understand how it all works, right? So, I don't know. It's a legit question to ask just to see what they say if I get a response, right?
Well, I had an experience where I saw the grid in a grocery store. No drugs, no alcohol, nothing like that. I was meditating a lot about 20 years ago, and I'm in a grocery store in San Antonio, Texas, HEB grocery store, and everything just disappears. It lasted about 3 seconds, and I see the blue and white grid lines.
Wow.
Everything just disappeared, and that's what I see. All around me is a grid. And I'm like, okay, well, what do I do with this? Yeah, at that time I was going through what I call a quickening, what my guys call a quickening, but I didn't have anybody I could talk to about it until I finally, like 15 years later, was able to talk to somebody about it. And they actually shared their experience with me where they said they saw the grid. I'm like, oh my gosh, somebody else actually saw it. So it doesn't surprise me at all. What you're saying might be, have some truth to it.
I had an experience years back, but I was on drugs. So I actually tried salvia divinorum. It was legal. It was actually legal back then. And I had bought a cutting. I didn't want, I could have gone into one of the head shops and bought the stuff, but I wanted the plant, right? So I actually got a cutting through eBay at the time, from, I think it was Alberta or something. So I grew this basically of the sage family, part of the sage family. So I grew this plant, kicking myself for letting it go, but I grew this plant, and it's just leaf, like sage leaves, and it's supposed to be one of the most, if not the most potent hallucinogenic plant known, from what I read. So I wanted to try it, and I grew the plant and dried some leaves, and it's not something that is addicting at all. Like I had the plant, I think it was over a year, and I just ended up letting it go. I don't know why. I'm kicking myself because now it's illegal. And in that year, I only tried it once because it was that intense.
Yeah.
And so I took a lungful of this stuff, hold it in as long as you can, and that's it. It's short, it's, I think, about 10 minutes, and it kind of put me over the top for a bit, where it's, kind of freaks you out, but then you get to a point where, you kind of level off. And I remember I could see the veil. I could see a veil between dimensions. And it's like something that has shown up in photographs that I've gotten from Nest family. So I actually saw this, while having this experience. And then I remember seeing this tear in this veil, and I could see this reality on the other side of it. And that was when I was like, oh, okay, good. Everything's cool. And I've actually never told that story before.
Oh,
so,
well, thank you. I'm honored.
Yeah, that was, well, when you had mentioned that, I thought, what the hell, right?
What the hell? Yeah.
Hey,
no, I appreciate that.
Yeah, we've all done stuff like that in our lives at some point or another. Well, maybe not all of us, but many of us have.
Yeah, I've done my share of plant ceremonies and drugs and partying. I did mushrooms when I was in my partying days, and I was like, oh, all I did was laugh. I loved it because, as you can tell, I love to laugh, and I just laugh. I had a good time. And then I last, I guess 3 years ago, I think it was, I met a woman who's a shaman, and asked me if I wanted to do, and there was a small group of us that would meet for table tipping and paranormal stuff. And so she's also a shaman, so she wanted to know if I wanted to do a psilocybin ceremony. I'm like, sure, it'll be fun. I'll just laugh. Whew, no, there was no laughing. It was, like you said, over the top kind of thing for me. And I also, and during that ceremony, I did two with them, but I could write a book just on that experience, each experience. And I saw the grid line. Well, they weren't grid lines then. It was just beautiful weaving of grid lines, I guess you could say. But I don't even know how to explain it. A grid. I saw my personal grid, which was gorgeous, and I could see my breath moving in and out is I could see my matrix, not my physical being, but my matrix. And I saw the grid of the room. We went outside, we could see the grid of the neighborhood. And it was just the most gorgeous thing. Once I was out of that freaking out mode, it was still pretty intense though.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done my share of that stuff too in my life, and it's hard on me, you know, it's difficult, but yeah, I'm well aware of the experience of that stuff as well.
Yeah, I'm not up for that kind of stuff anymore. I'll stick to my meditations and that kind of connection.
Yeah, well, they've legalized weed here now. You know, I dabble a little bit. It's not very much, but a little bit. It's fun to grow.
Yeah, it's legal here too in Oregon. I'm out of that because of my work. I don't do anything.
I actually learned something about psilocybin for myself. I have allergies. I have a couple cats and I'm allergic to them. I have other allergies as well, and learned microdosing when I have an allergy attack actually.
Oh.
So I
That's
just
good to
tried
know.
it one time. Yeah, I tried it one time, and it killed my allergy attack. And I was like, wow.
Yeah. Wow.
So sometimes I'll keep some on me, and I actually we were at Dwayne's cottage one time, and I had some with me. You know, I just carry it just in case allergy attack, and it disappeared. And I'm pretty sure the young guy took it that night, and I recorded him yelling his head off in the morning. And I had asked them, you know, what I wanted to see how they felt about that sort of thing, about mushrooms. And I said, are magic mushrooms bad? And they wrote no. So, you know, I wouldn't think they would say yes. You know, it's of the earth, right?
Right.
So,
yeah.
But I think that young Mushka guy, I think he took them. Pretty sure he did.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine anything of the earth is not bad, unless what's bad, I would imagine, is abusing it and not.
Yeah, abusing.
Yeah. That's the difference for sure. Nice conversation. I love talking about this stuff.
Yeah, I don't normally open up very much about that sort of thing. Yeah.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. It's I mean, it's all good. And you know, Oregon is, I think, one of the first states, I'm not sure if the first, that is moving towards legalizing psilocybin, at least for, if they haven't already. I know I voted on it, to use for depression and things like that in a clinical kind of setting. At least it's moving toward that area, because I understand it helps with depression, anxiety.
I've actually I've bought some stock shares in that stuff, just waiting for it to get the go ahead. That's where we're going.
Yes.
You know, there's companies in development of this stuff, and doing their whatever they got to do, and sooner or later it's going to be something used for mental health issues. And
there you go. Yeah, I did too.
There's going to be a lot of that stuff going around, regarding all this whatever post-COVID stuff too, right?
Yeah, it needs to happen. It's about time. I mean, Big Pharma needs to go out the door. I mean, it's time for us to. And I know I don't know, but
I asked Neff's family about does frequency vibration kill cancer cells, and they said yes, which would validate Royal Raymond Rife, who almost a century ago built the Rife machine to kill cancer, and the government jumped on him
Yeah.
Quash that. And anybody, I had read anybody basically that was promoting that at the time, you would have been put in prison. So yeah, big farm jumped on top, and so they had that figured out basically almost a century ago.
Oh yeah.
And I know now, like you can look up and purchase rife machines. So,
rife machine, RIFE.
Yeah, RIFE. You know, there's different, I guess, different costs. Some much more intense than others.
Right.
And basically, it's different frequencies for different healings.
Well, that makes total sense. I mean, it's just like the med beds that are, and things like that are supposed to be coming our way that the elites, I'm sure, have been using for a long time. And so you asked Neff about frequency for healing. Is that what you said?
I basically specifically asked about does frequency vibration kill cancer cells?
Oh, okay, gotcha.
That was my question, and they responded yes.
Yes, I love that.
I get these thoughts sometimes, and it's like, oh, okay, I gotta ask them a question. I don't always get an answer to my questions. Sometimes I even have to reword things, and then they do. I had asked, how long do your people live in human years? And they didn't respond. And I changed my wording. I said, do your people live longer than 200 human years? And yes. Wow. And then I tried to elaborate on that a bit. I wrote, do your people live longer than 500 years? They didn't respond. So I dropped it. I said, do they live longer than 300 years? They didn't respond. So I just left it at that. So I got, they live longer than 200 human years. And I don't know how long it could be, maybe 1,000 years. I don't know. I'm sure they all live different than that. But
right.
From what they stated, longer than 200 years anyways.
Right. And from what I understand, we used to live a lot longer too. And we've been, because of everything we've dealt with in our environment and in our food and in, everything that's come our way, how shortens our life.
Yeah, everything's poison at that point. The air, the water, the soil, the food, and it's all being done on purpose.
Exactly. I hear you, brother.
I'm wide awake.
Yeah.
I'm wide awake.
I knew that. Yeah, I've seen some of your videos. I enjoyed the one with was it the tinfoil hat guy, where you spoke your mind about some things about what's going on. I'm like, yes, I really like this guy.
Oh, I asked them about the whole virus thing going on, made by bad humans, that basically want to wipe us out much. And they want them gone too. They're a threat, because an expanded consciousness, you can't control that. Right. Somebody like that, you can't control me. I've been like that my whole life though. So right from day one.
Good. Good for you. Yeah, totally.
I stay in school. I didn't finish school at all. I didn't finish high school, and I didn't need to, and I find you can have somebody with degrees up the yin yang, and they can still be and unaware. It's those degrees that make you more intelligent, from what I'm finding. Yeah. It's not always the case, of course, but you don't need to have degrees to be an intelligent human being.
Totally.
And it's just as long as you're awake and aware, and you can see a system, what they've been shoving down our throats and stuffing us inside that little box, right? Yeah, and thinking that the American dream is the way we're supposed to live. Go to school, get indoctrinated, have 2.5 kids, get married, have 2.5 kids, get a mortgage,
you know, and pay on that the rest of your life. Get a job where you're working to make someone else rich. You know, send your kids to college. Give all that cycle, and
Feeding machine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Feeding
Totally.
a monster. Yeah. I'm done with that.
Yeah.
I don't want any part of it anymore. And, you know, and then at the same time, they're taking everything from us, you know, our freedom and our money, you know, that we earn. They take it all as much as they can. Just keep chipping away at it, you know, at a rate of complacency where we don't, you know, too much at a time. We're saying, right?
Right. Yeah.
They got it all figured out. Their little system.
It's coming,
but it's
down,
crumbling.
Though. It's coming down.
Crumbling. Yeah.
That matrix is coming down.
This is why I do what I do, because it goes against this system. Right. It expands human consciousness. It shows people there's much more to reality than what we've been led to believe, and this is why I put my experiences out there.
Well, thank you. We need more like you, definitely. I'm going to play this other audio you sent. Okay.
Yeah, that's May 10th, 2013. It's a distant vocal, but it's one of my favorites. It's short but sweet. It's you know, one of Ness family. Just yeah, it's a great little piece.
Okay. Wow, I'm gonna play that again. It almost sounds like they're singing.
They are very musical.
Oh, good. That's so cool.
Yeah, they've been extremely generous in giving me their vocals because they know exactly what I'm doing and what I'm doing with them.
Right.
They know I'm sharing this stuff and putting it out there, and so I'm very grateful for all they've given me, and they continue to give.
Yeah, there's obviously a kinship there, and that's really amazing. They trust you, and sounds like they are all heart.
Yeah. Yeah, they're very evolved. The epitome of don't judge a book by its cover.
Mm-hmm.
You know, their consciousness is, you know, if we use 10% of our brain, they use it all.
Wow.
Fully.
Yeah.
And their heads are much bigger, much more brain power is.
Well, I could talk to you for a very long time, but I know you have things to do. I really, really thank you for talking to me today, Mike.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks, Sharon.
Do you have any, before we close, do you have any suggestions to people, to my audience, that on maybe how they can forge a connection with Sasquatch if they want, with the hairy people?
Sure. Well, first of all, my YouTube channel, Sasquatch Ontario, yes. And they're just chock full of information. Everything you really need to know, I talk about there, and there's a lot of, like I said, a lot of information there. And SasquatchOntario.com, I have a website there as well. You can look that up.
And I'll have all that down in the details too.
What's that?
I'll have all your information down in the details too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And, you know, put your intention out that you connect to them, connect with nature, you know, go for hikes in the woods, and you don't have to go into the middle of nowhere at all. You know, find a local patch of forest. If you see structures look like they're man-made, even right at the trail, right next to a trail, that's a good indication of their presence in the area. And like I said, put your intention out, respect nature. You don't have to go around hooting and hollering and banging on trees and making a big racket. They know who's looking for them. And you can always bring a gift for them. Try meditation. I've found too, like numerous people have told me they've had experiences just after, like, focusing on Neff's vocals and really listening to those, and putting that energy into that.
Nice.
It seems that they are watching people watching that stuff. And, I've had contact with certain folks that suddenly started having activity as well. I had a gentleman from Montreal that I've been dealing with, who's was helping with some audio stuff, with some analysis, and he has a cottage out in Quebec, and he told me he was making a visit, and I told him after the end of our conversation, I said, just start pay close attention next time you go there. And sure enough, when he was there, things started happening. So he's now had vocals, footprints, wood knocks and rock clacks, and and numerous other things, even a pen that you write with. When he was back home in Montreal, and he was telling his wife about this stuff, they're standing in their kitchen, and he had just finished telling her about where I'm having marbles appear out of thin air, and suddenly it happened behind his back, so she witnessed it over his shoulder. A pen appeared from thin air and dropped to the floor. She flipped out. So yeah, they are listening, watching. They're capable of incredible stuff. They can visit us in our homes, and they show their presence in ways that, like I said before, they know what we focus on. Even if you're a slap on your wall or something, a bang on the wall, they do like to slap walls. I haven't had that happen here but I remember it's happened at the cottage and stuff. I know other people that it's happened to. They might have their presence, and you could be looking for something and have checked a certain spot a couple times or a few times, and it's not there, and then suddenly it's there, and you're wondering how that got there. Or, wow. Little things like that. They're astounding abilities. So, just keep an open mind, and like I said, connect to nature, and never know what could happen.
Right. Thank you. That's amazing. Yeah, it's time that we realize that they are a gentle people.
Yeah, and they're quite boisterous. So some people misunderstand some of their behavior, some of their antics. Yelling like a crazy person doesn't necessarily mean anything malevolent at all. It's just how they're boisterous. Or a rock tossed towards you that lands at your something, that just might mean that they're standing right there in front of you. They're not throwing it from out in the woods. It could be coming from just a few feet away. And if they want you to leave, they can make you leave without you even knowing what's going on. So if they want you gone, they'll let you know. In a way
smell? I've heard about smells.
Yeah, that doesn't necessarily mean anything negative. Okay. Not necessarily. It could just be showing their presence, and they turn smell on and off. They
Mm.
gave us that experience, and it was recent. It happened indoor too. So where
Indoors.
they were giving us, yeah, they were giving us some pretty smelly smells, and it was directed individually. So Dwayne's sitting right there at the end of the table, and I'm getting this waft of dog crap up my nose, and he can't smell it. And then suddenly they're doing it to him, and I can't smell it. And,
Oh, that's crazy.
yeah, and then it changed
Cool.
to, I don't know, sheep or horse manure smell or something, and I believe again that was the young guy who I was mentioning earlier, Mr. Two.
Mr. Funny Man
Mushka.
too. Mushka.
Yeah, he's. I actually in what was it last year? He had left a track in the snow out front of the cottage, and the big guy had left a single footprint. It's one of those subscription videos, and he had. So the big guy had left shown his single print, which was now 21 inches. It used to be 20, and one guy had left his tray. So I estimate him, like I said, 14, 15. So I was documenting his trackway. I can't remember how many prints. All the prints that I've documented, which are hundreds in snow at that cottage from multiple family members, all of them go nowhere. So I was documenting this trackway, and suddenly he hit me with a snowball. I got pinged off with a snowball, and I was running my video camera when it happened, and I actually captured his vocalization right beside me. He basically was laughing, give a small little chuckle, weird kind of laugh right beside me. And when I played back the audio, it's like, yeah, that was, he was just, laughing at my reaction.
Right. Like a big kid. So before we close, I just wanted to say one thing. Before we started recording, you had mentioned that it was rare for us to be able to see them.
In my situation,
okay.
In a situation with like ongoing contact, and it doesn't necessarily mean everybody's like that. Some people do get visuals. I just don't think it's very often. It's very something that very periodic. Personally, like I've documented Neff's family for a decade now. I've had so much physical contact, and I've gotten partial. I've been tapped on the shoulder, spin my head around, and I see a dark shadow dissipate. It's gone. It's there, and it's gone in a flash.
Yeah.
Or I've stood there, and Dwayne's been sitting in a chair, and he said I've had a massive shadow appear, like standing directly behind me, and then I've gotten a poke in the side at the same time. So then, partial manifestations. There's been manifestations too that have happened. I remember his dad, who's now passed, Bill. That's one of the reasons why I was called in there, because he had a full sighting outside the window one morning. So they are flesh and blood. They are just masters of energy. So they have a body, as we do. They just understand energy at a level that is
right. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right. My pleasure, Sharon.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. And thank you everyone for watching. I'm sure that you had as much fun with this chat as I did. And please do all that YouTube stuff. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on our conversation and share maybe some of your experiences in the comments. And see you next time.
All right. Take care.